Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Brendan Dorman MMA channel. This is part 1 in the Jab series as suggested by my friend Elijah Wright. So, in episode 1 of this series on the Jab, I'm going to focus on distance control, in this case distance domination. The Jab serves many purposes and is the most important strike in combat sports. It's usually the first engaged. From range finding to cadence disruption, vision obfuscation, to why the southpaw jab is normally different in function. So when it comes to distance dominance or the jab, who better than Mr. Georges St-Pierre, Rush himself? And of course I've included others as well, but I think TriStar, I could have done Rory too, but I wanted to keep it kind of singularly focused. So this next segment was filmed on a toothbrush, I believe. This is GSP demonstrating not to flare elbows and step in and recoil back. I like to teach it like you're grabbing out for an apple, and sometimes walking along the wall to make sure that your elbow doesn't do that and flare out. You want the jab to be straight, you want to step in, you want to be on your toes. Right there, if I got the right snapshot or if I timed it right, that's just about perfect form. And you want to be able to kind of step in and step back. I'll demonstrate that later as this goes on. So the jab. First and most important strike, it's the one after all, right? It is the pronation of your hand closest to opponent, but with so much variance. And some of these probably look familiar to you. And there was variance there and it was subtle, so I'm testing everyone a little bit here. So with distance dominance, damage, you want to do damage from where you're comfortable, proximity-wise, angle-wise, whatever the case. See, you don't want ever to be in a position where you can be countered, right? So when you're doing things like piston pumping and feinting along, Roy Jones being a great example of piston pumping, I would assume that's where George got it from, and I keep going to this Pazienza fight only because I love to use Roy Jones because I have his fights kind of memorized in my head. And see, what George is doing is very similar in nature. They call this piston pumping. That's how I learned it anyway, from, I believe, one of the Whitleys. End results start to get this sort of a reaction, like befuddled one, where the opponent really doesn't know what to do. Now, see, at this point, he's just foot feinting. I mean, he's not even pronating the hand out a little bit, but it's serving the same purpose. So double jab is the best counter to an overhand right, and best followed by a right straight or a left hook, but both should have an exit strategy if that's the case. And Koscheck had a mean overhand right and a pretty good left hook as well, actually. Sometimes you can extend the double time feel, if you will. Let's never forget striking is it's so musical, right? And see, it's up, up, boom, up, up. So distance where you're safe defensively. Think of Floyd's stab to the body where you step in with your toes in order to spring back out with toes. There's a good example. And if you notice, every time George engages, he's meeting them at a 30 degrees. So athleticism doesn't hurt, but the inertia or force is just mass times acceleration. Physics major, can't you tell? And in that last shot, you could really see how that eye was getting dinged up really bad. So defensive distance, as Koscheck approaches or anyone and steps into the twilight zone, they are met, or you can tell like that when they rub their hands on their shorts. Here's another one. This isn't the same round by any stretch. When someone's got a tell like that, you want to cue on it immediately. So the power tie jab used on occasion by George is a hard, momentous step into the jab, creating kazushi or unbalance. And in that case with Jake Shields, very clearly it did that. See how he's stepping into those real hard, kind of onto his heel? So he's digging in a little bit more. And when feints are working well, you should mix the zero tell strikes. It's like they're overloaded with defensive thoughts. They have no offense. See, there's nothing. There's no feinting. There's not even a level change. Everyone's favorite, of course, Superman jab. It's the most distance jab of all by far, especially when done. Oh, that's so pretty by Rush himself. So often exit stage left afterwards, and he goes about halfway across the octagon normally when he does it. It's just it's incredible that I don't do it that pretty. I do it pretty well. We had the same guy teaching us both, the same maneuver. Really, it's the pendulum effect of your left leg pushing back and kind of falling forward. And if you see that one against Bisping, that certainly hurt him. So the version I learned from Ajar and Filners is followed by a right low kick, kind of serving like the Dutchie, like the momentum of the punch makes your left leg heavy right there. Bang. Bisping was trying to counter. Alves was heavy on that foot to counter. Same thing again. See, when they're trying to load up on a right hand, that left leg is going to be planted. And it's all about timing and capitalizing on things like that. George was always winning wars of attrition. So, this is my personal favorite against Matt Serra, who's a personal favorite. It's astounding. He weaves under the right hand and then kicks across both legs. Look at that. That is magical. Like right there again. It's just timing. That was UFC 100 against Alves when he was a killer. Mixing order of the left kick and right low kick after. So that's beautiful right there. So he did the left kick not just as a feint for pendulum effect, but he used it to then propel the jab. And that distance, I slowed down so you can see, but incredible stuff. Ultimately, guessing is an activity. So opening up one's entire game on the defensively confused fighter is pretty easy to do. Level change is the key to this duality right there. So is he taking him down? Is he going to hit him with a pop jab? What's up? And it's a pop jab, or a flick jab, some might call it, off the waist. Koscheck, don't forget, is a 4-time NCAA All-American Collegiate Wrestler, with one of them being a championship. G, like me, learned grappling for MMA, or when he started doing MMA. Look at the confusion there. So is this a level change, a jab coming? Is it a takedown? Is it some combination of the two? And that was level change straight into a blast double. Think of Royce foot feinting in the corner versus Vinny Paz, right? And then watch this following sequence. So you have someone hurt and they're covering up that eye because the orbital's broke. And he pops it once and shoots right in. Beautiful. George was taking him down at will, and Josh wasn't really able to take him down. Now, level changes are more subtle. And the blast double and the jab look identical to the opponent, importantly. Parry jabs, very important for deflecting trajectory when timing is uncertain. So if you don't really have a read on someone's timing, you want to parry their jab if you can, and return one of your own at a similar, if not the same time. And I'm freezing them down as he parries. You always want to kind of swoop them like out and away without it being a dramatic motion. It's more of a pat. This is way back in the day with David the Crow Loiseau from Montreal. And here I'm freezing both, so I wanted to put a little decal on both, if you will, his right hand and Michael's left. And it's so for the same reason that southpaws parry down the orthodox jab and return it, the parry implies misdirection, right? Just in its word itself, and slows down defensive recoil. That fraction of time is the difference between landing one or not landing, right? It all happens quick, and that was a way to get Matt Hughes off pressure-wise. So on the outro, I'm going to have some Sonny Liston for my boxing fans. Hopefully you'll see the similarity in range and use of jab, and there'll be more to come in the boxing realm. It really depends on the subject, which is subject to change. So I look forward to doing this jab series. I won't do them all in a row. I'll kind of come in and out of it. Then I'll put it all as a playlist in there. Okay? Thanks for watching.